about like 4.5 feet to 5 feet tall, and it's about 300 meters long. So some miners, most miners, they could easily walk through that. But for the taller ones, they either have to crawl through, they punch through those whole 300 meters.
Wow. What's that hole?
That hole right there, that is a vent. So obviously, since we're underground, there's no air or oxygen that can come to us really easily. So what miners would do is they dig holes like that, so that air can get down to the miners in the level below. Right there on the ceiling above us, we've got some marks. No, these aren't scratch marks of monsters hide down here. So these marks here, we believe they're hand-drill holes dug by the miners. So these 3 holes would have taken easily a 12-hour shift, 1 day of work for the miners back then.
What was the point?
We would drill holes, and at the very end of the hole, at the end of the day, they'd fill it with gunpowder or black powder,
Okay.
and then they'd light it, and they should be able to crack off a piece of rock that's about the size of a fridge.
Wow. Huh. What's the blue thing on the rocks?
The blue thing on the rocks, that's the oxidized copper. So just like the rust, the miners, they'd look for that turquoise blue color to find copper in the talcum pyrite. Now, that color looks a lot like the Statue of Liberty, right? It oxidizes if it turns that color. It's the chemical reaction that happens between the copper and oxygen, like air.
Ano ka rin natin? Sa lahat ng lupa na tayo nakatira. Mauunto ka nga rito pag mataas ka.
You also have to keep in mind, might say this a few times before, they did this all with candles.
Bisikleta lang naman tayo.
So they managed to build this massive mechanism right here in kindling. Now, this mechanism is called an ore chute. So, like I said before, not every level in the mine had a rail system where you could put your ore in easily. So up there, the level above us, there wasn't a rail system. So what miners would do if they're working up there, they just quite simply throw the ore and the rocks they found down into this ore chute, and it would all collect up and be waiting right here to be put into a mine cart, just like what's shown on the poster right there.
May mga ginto dito, pre. Nakakita ka.
Now, if you look up this way, it's quite an easy way to throw off your perspective, especially if you look at this poster. This poster is actually level. So, the mine was dug down on a 45-degree angle like this, all the way down, because that's how the mine shaft was dug. The same thing for the Eustis mine. The only mine that didn't have a 45-degree angle mine shaft was the Almer mine.
Oo. Kabayo. Kapit na. Tal naka-helmet. Pag walang helmet dito, bukol ulo mo. Malamig na nga. Tubig nga, no?
Ano ko ba siya?
Yeah.
Oh, that's what they like to dig her in.
So this is the reason why we can't go any deeper in the mine nowadays. This is the water that's flooded up the entire mine below us. Now,
Nasa ibaba na
Yeah.
po tayo.
And it really flooded like way.
Tubig na, no? Para sa mga
yeah,
puso, no? Mas mga puso. Sa mga puso sa Pilipinas, tubig na ang lalim, no?
Yeah.
And that's it. Wow.
Like at one point, we're on the 3rd level. At one point, we did have access to like the 6th level, I believe, but our pump couldn't keep up, and the rain collected way too fast.
Dito na ako ng bata.
We could only keep it at this level where it is right now, because if we try to pump out more, we could break our pump, and pumps are quite expensive, and also the water could easily kill plant life outside of the mine. You see, this water here is about 5 degrees Celsius, which is why it's so cold where we are. It's about 9 degrees Celsius. And this water also has a pH of 4. So it's really, really, really acidic. It could kill most plants with touch, I guess you could say.
Really?
Now,
So we don't drink it.
we do not drink it.
Like, what, let's just say, what was to happen if, let's say, like, we were to touch it?
If we were to touch it, well, we actually, one of the tour guides, they did touch it. They had like nail polish and stuff on their fingernails. They had like one of those, what are they
Fake
called?
nails?
Like fake nails
Yeah.
there. They put their hand into the water, they pulled it out, the nail polish was gone, and the fake nails had eroded a little bit.
What?
Yeah,
Whoa.
so it's very, very acidic.
Huh.
And it also has a very low oxygen level. You see, since there's no air that pushes the water around to give it a current, it just sits there flat like that. It's like a piece of glass, as you can see.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. There we go. Okay, so it just sits there like that because there's no oxygen that gets to it, which means that it's got a very low oxygen level, which in combination with the 5 degrees Celsius and also the pH of 4, we think that nothing was down there.
Okay.
Nothing should, but we're not sure.
Yeah, because it's
We've got another little pillar there. Most of the pillars that are throughout the mine here are original pieces that were used in the mine when we were working. We have replaced a few, but all these ones here, they're quite original.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I think that's so down there.
Yeah, it's another level of the roof.
That hole down there, well, that's where the rest of the mine goes. If,
Oh,
we
we
were
can't
to-
go there now.
if there wasn't any water there, we'd be able to see the rest of the mine, but we can't go now because the water is there. So, right here on the ceiling just above you, that right there is what we call here in Capeltone Mine, the beast. So this is a stalactite. It looks like kind of an icicle. They form in almost the same way, just that stalactites, they have minerals in it instead of water. Now, does anyone know the difference between a stalactite and a stalagmite?
No idea.
1 point's down, the other 1 point's up.
Exactly. So stalactites, they start from the ceiling and grow down, and stalagmites, they start from the ground and they grow up. Now, stalactites, they usually grow about 1 centimeter every 100 years. This stalactite, however, is 150 years old, and it's 2.5 centimeters long. So it's massive for its age, which is why we call it the beast.
Wow.
It's a little bit anticlimactic, but all right, so we're going to be going up this staircase next. I'm just going to ask you all to please keep a few steps in between each other so nobody gets hurt. And when we get to the top, the ceiling does get quite low, so watch out for your head.
Okay, don't make your mouth.
Okay, nasa.
Ay, yaya pa kami.
Ito si Angel, hindi pa napupunta ni Angel ito.
Wala pa. Tayo pala makapunta.
I'll explain why we were standing just a little bit. Yeah, if you look down there, you can see one ore tube right there, and then there's another one all the way down there. So I don't know about you guys, but after going up that staircase, even though I go up and down it almost every day, I found it's quite hard to breathe. Now, the reason because of that is because we're quite far away from the main entrance. We're at one of the furthest points away from it, actually. And where we are, there's quite a low oxygen level. There's no like circulation or vents that get oxygen here. The only source of oxygen we have is from the fan that's pushing it this way. So it's got quite a low oxygen level. But we're not at all that far away from the main entrance compared to the 1.5 kilometers deep in the mine. Working all the way down at the bottom, with it being so hot and such a low oxygen level, miners could easily pass out or get extremely tired after only an hour of work. But they still had to fill in another 11 hours somehow. So some of them, with their own money, they'd have to buy oxygen masks and oxygen tanks, which were really expensive at the time since they're in the first stages. And also, the oxygen tanks would only really last about 2 to 3 hours at max. So miners, they would have to really figure out how to store their energy properly and be able to work down there. Now up here on the ceiling, we've got plenty more stalactites that go out through the entire ceiling. These ones are normal for their age though. These ones are the 1.5 centimeters long that they're supposed to be compared to the piece down there. Does anyone have any questions?
What is my little crack?
That little crack? Right there? Up there.
Pilipinas ang dami ditong paniki. So,
That's just a little kind of hole in the rock. The reason why it's dark like that is because the light isn't putting on it. But when I put my flashlight, you can see. It's just another part of the rock. Alright, okay.
So what do they do for energy then?
For energy,
Like what trick would they find?
they really figure out how to. They take turns with the jobs they had, the roles that they had down there. Obviously, moving around wheelbarrows took a lot less energy than working with the guys to break out small pieces of rock. So they do turns down there. They have something for lunch that was really nutritious and gave them a lot of energy. You guys happen to know what that might be?
Something that they ate that would give them a lot of energy?
It was quite nutritious and also very cheap at the time. Well, they would eat a can of beans for lunch every day. You see, beans, they were really cheap, quite easy to warm up. You could use lots of I'll show you in a little bit, and very nutritious. But there's one side effect with beans, right?
Yeah.
There's a little bit of a stink that comes with them. But just like with the porta potty, the smell of the sulfur really masks that, so you wouldn't have to worry about farting near a group of people. It wouldn't cause any problems. There's zero casualties here in the Capeltone mine.
dito muna tayo pupunta sa ano sa ilalim.
They make sure their security systems were well intact, and also
Tubig na. Kailangan ko ng
they
oxygen.
really took safety measures
Pero dyan.
as one of the most important things. However, in the use of this mine, they've used dynamite. It was very dangerous because it was in its early stages of use. And they also used electric drills, which were also known as dry drills, which were nicknamed by the miners as widowmakers. See, with the dry drills, they'd break into the rock. They wouldn't use any water to cool down the rock with the drill itself, so it could easily make huge cracks in the rock and break a chunk off, which could fall on you and injure you quite badly.
Make you the widowmaker.
Exactly.
What is this?
That's the poster of the area right here. First, I'm going to show you guys this tool right here. So this is kind of like the ancient microwave that the miners used. If you wanted to have your can of beans by about 12 o'clock, let's say, you'd have to put your can of beans on here for 11. It'd take about an hour to warm up your beans to be just warm enough to eat. So what the miners would do, they put their can of beans on top and a candle underneath, and they'd light it. And in around an hour, they'd be able to eat. And then this area right here, this was the resting place for the miners. So during their break where they got to eat and spend their time for a break, they'd come here. Now these benches, as you can see, they're really, really flat. Now, miners, they'd work in small spaces, hunched over all day long. So why would you think that these benches are so flat?
For the back, like this fine.
Exactly. They'd be able to easily stretch out their backs this way. They wouldn't cause any back problems while working down here.
They had like doctors or anything in the area?
They had some down in the mining town, and there was, I think there was a certain like translator they could use to get first aid up the mountain as fast as possible.
Good. And what about like police or security or?
There, I believe there was like a police station down in Albert Town,
Tawa siya.
and it was like the police station for Eustis, Albert, and Capeltone.
Okay. But see now they couldn't go anywhere. Everyone knew each other, so.
Yeah. There really wasn't that many crimes, because if you were to cause a crime, they could easily find you. And if you were from another town and you came here to rob something, money wasn't worth anything for you. it would really only be like supplies and stuff, which we're really only mining.
Okay.
Yeah,
What is this piece of food?
these pieces of wood,
We're going too fast.
these are kind of like, this is kind of like a cafeteria. So this is where the miners would come in, eat their lunch, and spend a short amount of their time. Yeah, exactly. So if we look at these benches right here and compare them to the stables just over here, I don't know about you, I kind of would prefer the stables. Now, this is where the mules would stay. They would live their entire lives down here, so they'd stay here at night. The miners would feed them 3 times a day and brush them daily. This is just one of the representations to show you the mules had better lives down here than the miners did, but the mules had to spend their entire lives down here. Any questions? Yeah?
What? What? They have little things there.
It's for their heads.
That thing right there,
Yeah.
the piece of wood, that's kind of like a little table where they put their stuff while they are resting.
Pwede mo ba ito?
And heat?
Any other questions?
Ano ka?
O kaya din ako.
Tara.
This was their chair.
Nasa likod natin, wala na nang gana eh. Tinatamad na. Tayo, nagbibideo tayo, kaya tayo...
You had to come early.
Natatakot yan mga yan. Natatakot.
How many people would be in this conference?
There'd be, on like a normal year, there'd be 100 people, 100 miners that work down here. But in some of the best years of Capeltone's life, there'd easily be like 150 to 200 miners that work down here.
Wow.
So, right here on the wall, we've got someone who either lost their hand drill, got it stuck and couldn't get it out, or just quite simply forgot about it when the mine closed. So this is a hand drill that's kind of wedged into the wall right there, and it was left behind here by the miner who originally owned it.
May ginto dito. Hindi naman ito kain kung wala
Was
itong
it
mga
just
tao dito.
instantaneous from one day? It was open next to close? Was it?
So sa
were they
Wikipedia to,
working
may ano
like
to.
a month left?
It was
Hindi
over
naman
a
to
long period of
pagtatsagaan
time
ng
that
miner kung walang
Susundan silang parang.
that he would close eventually because some of the levels in the mine were closed down because there wasn't enough copper pirate getting out of it. So those miners would be fired.
Oh,
And
okay.
then slowly over time, it'd be
Kung itong bato na ito may ginto sa loob,
fired
bubuhatin ko na yan.
because
Yung mga bato na yan.
copper pirate coming out to pay them and to keep the mine open. So at one point, the mine just shut down.
Okay, so it would like gradually. It just,
Yeah, gradually over time, it just closed and shut down.
Okay. It still kind of sucks. Since everything you work for is worthless.
Yeah.
Like the money you have.
Meron kami niyan dati. Lalagyan ng gas.
But in Canada, between I think
No,
Canada
may gas
had a
yan eh.
bank in the 1880s sometime.
Ito,
So
meron
from
pa.
1863 till that time, their money was worth quite a lot because Canada didn't have a bank back then, so many currencies were flying around. Miners could spend their money wherever they wanted. Then after 1883, miners were after 1880 something.
Once the bank opened,
Once the bank opened, miners were stuck here.
so there was only one currency. So there's was.
Yeah.
Yan.
Yeah.
Ano yun? Inumin na.
Sa ilog nga sa Pilipinas, may tubig na malinis sa mga ilog.
So again on this neck,
Kaya hindi naman pwedeng iliman eh. Di ba sa inyo nagkakaroon?
few steps in between each other so nobody gets hurt. And in the top gets slightly low, but not as low as one.
Tapos may makikita nila Pascal yan. Makikita nila Pascal. Facebook ko yan. So, gamit na mana nila.
Dapat na naman kami. sa'yo kanina? Hindi. Ito pare.
Yes. Yeah.
Yan maraming ginto. Sa lugar na to.
Up there, well, that's just a room the miners dug out. So,
You know,
at one point, this was all filled with rocks, and the miners all took it out.
So it's dug like that because they were following the veins, I guess?
Yeah. For everything that we did, there was one point a vein of chalcopyrite, and we followed the veins wherever they went. The only way that they wouldn't follow the vein was up. They only dug down or across.
Okay.
So, you might have noticed in this opening right here, on this wall, there's kind of like this pattern that follows throughout the entire wall. This pattern looks a lot like a bird's foot, right? Well, this technique was called the bird's foot technique. So, the miners, they drill first hand drill hole in the middle, another one at the top and the bottom, and at the very end of the day, when nobody was in the mine, they'd fill the ends with gunpowder or black powder, and they'd light it. And usually it'd be one hand drill hole that would go off at a time, so usually the bottom one would go up first, then the middle, then the top, and after the top one blew off. Or if you're looking for gold. If you were to look for gold, you found some quartz in the right areas, you should be able to find it.
si pare yan. Puti. Puti yan. May ano nga ito, yun o, copper yan. Yun o. Huh?
Right, so does anyone recognize where we are right now?
The beginning.
Exactly, we just did one great big underground circle throughout the mine. So, like I said before at this spot, the miners, they didn't have electricity down here. They only had candlelight. They didn't have these lamps and stuff that we have down here. So I was wondering if it would interest you guys, if I took this candle right here, and I lit it just to show you what it would have been like for the miners to work down here.
Yes.
Alrighty, so I'm gonna light the candle, and I'm gonna turn off the lights just over here.
Let's see how much they saw.
Pag sumabog yan.
So the candle's lit.
This is how much it's gonna go dark, right? That's how much they saw them.
Now, isn't that crazy? The miners, they spent 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, in environments that were like this. Now, this candle right here, it's made out of candle wax, while the candles the miners used were only made out of animal fat. So this candle right here burns twice as bright as the ones the miners used. And also, the miners, when they were working down here, the air around them was filled with dust. So most miners said they couldn't see their fingertips. So if you stick your hands out right now, most of you should be able to see your fingertips pretty easily. But the miners, they couldn't see that far. Imagine not being able to see that far away from you. Now, obviously, you wouldn't just leave your candle sitting on the ground somewhere because somebody could knock it over, blow it out, and that way you couldn't really see anything, you were lost. So what miners would do, they had three options of what to do with their candles. They could either use one hand and hold it, which would be a waste of a hand while they worked at the rock with another, or instead of wasting a hand, what they could do, they could dip a little bit of melted candle wax on the tip of their hat just like that, and they'd use their candle and glue it there. So after the melted candle wax dried, the candle should stay there. This way, wherever you looked, the light would follow, and you could see quite easily the area around you. Just that not every miner had the same kind of helmets we do nowadays. In fact, their helmets were a little bit looser, and some of them didn't even wear helmets. They wore like straw hats or leather hats. So when that candle got all the way down to the bottom, that flame could catch on their straw hat and quite simply catch their head on fire. Now, it wasn't too fun for their heads, just about how much water we need to pump out monthly. Because we're only allowed to keep the water level at the level that it is right now. So that's how much, that's what tells us how much we need to take out.
And where do you pump out the water? Where does it go?
I believe that it goes on a controlled spot on the mountain, where it can be pumped out. If not, then they'd be pumped out into barrels and sent somewhere else. Any other questions?
Is that a lot of water or?
Yeah, that's quite a bit of water in there. That means that we'd have to start pumping it out soon, because by the time it gets to the top, then that means it reached like our maximum water level. We start to need to pump it out a little bit again.
I'm not too sure exactly how much water that is, but it's quite a lot.
How often do you have to pump it out? Like once every month, twice a year? Or?
I'm not exactly sure, but I think it's every few months, if not every year. So quite frequent because we want to keep our water levels safe and secure. So this right here is the salt that I was talking about. So you have to imagine the entire mountains around us, that whole 800 acres, would look exactly like this yellow sulfur color right in front of us. There wouldn't be any trees. We're lucky that the forests and stuff have managed to grow back between the time of mine closed and now. It took a lot of work
Yan,
and
mga ginto yan, tsaka copper.
very, very lucky that we grow back.
Mga ginto yan.
Kaya alangan nila kayo nila.
So right up there on that rock, you guys see like that white rock right there. So that's the quartz. So like I said before, there were three kind of indicators the miners would use to look for chalcopyrite. They look for the rust, they look for the oxidized copper, and they look for quartz. Now quartz and